Is AI going to take away game devs' jobs? What is going to be the impact of AI, ChatGPT, etc. on game development? Now, I know this is a huge question. Everyone's wondering that. If you want to be joining the game industry as a programmer, designer, artist, it's probably on your mind and you're looking for this answer. This is the video. So, a short while ago, I actually had the pleasure of inviting onto my panel discussion at the India Game Dev Conference some really cool people. Among them was Mike Fisher, who's actually been the CEO of Square Enix. He's been the board member and advisor on Krafton. He's also been the head of publishing for Epic Games, and he is right now a professor of interactive media at the University of Southern California, which is one of the world's best gaming colleges. So I also have on this panel with me Taiwan Yoon, who's from Korea and who's actually was one of the advisors for Super Evil Mega Corp. And also, lastly, we have Joshua Deburai, who is a CTO of Hammerplay Studios and a really good friend of mine. So, in this talk, we talked about everything about AI in game development, what the effects are going to be, who's going to be affected, what this timeline is going to be, and whether you need to be worried or not. So this is an extract of a really long video, which was a panel discussion which happened for about more than an hour or so. So I've taken out the best bits and I've put them into this particular video. Now, if you want to watch the full video, which is on the IGDC channel, the link is in the description of this video. So if you have any comments, let me know. Let's go. What can AI actually do? Right? Like, what are the capabilities of AI in the process of game development and production when it comes to design, art, and programming? Like, what's the situation like? Not about the future, but right now. What can AI do right now?
So I see a lot of pitches that come to me as an investment advisor. And I do see a lot of last year's bad pitches with metaverse removed and AI replaced. But the reality is already today, I do see it being used. One, it's being used in QA to do some testing. Two, it's being used in a lot of concept art. So not in the in-game art so much, but in the concepting phase. If you want to test different art for your game characters, it's very easy to iterate. And then also I'm seeing it used to do things like NPC game dialogue. So it's not being used for the high-end function. I suspect some programmers are using it to help speed up their work, but not in a systematic way. So it's already working, but at the edges and at the low value part of development.
Actually, it is being a part of the productivity tool. And then the interesting part is that the AI being really specific, so you have to come up with a use case for really small use case and then focus on that. So that is because of AI is not really a intelligence as of yet. Like Mike said, all the stuff I've seen so far is that either using it as a part of productivity tool or using to create a tools to make it textures and so on and so forth. Conversational NPCs is the one I hate the most because it doesn't add anything to the game. If you're working on it, don't do that.
So yeah, I mean, so far we've been only working with, concept art, right? So it's very helpful to brainstorm an idea, like come up with a lot of concept art just when you're beginning with it. Probably with the audio area where you can have symphonies getting generated because you can just have a bit of sampling and then with mix and match the sampling, you get a new music composition, right? So if you have the chords ready, it's gonna generate a bunch of instruments for you. That area is where it's been used mostly, I think. Probably like Mike said, NPCs, but I'm not talking about the dialogue, but probably the voice acting part, right? So you can, one actor can finish and then it can be modulated to someone else. So these areas are pretty tricky. So voice actors are in the front line of getting affected.
Right. A little bit of background here for people who are new to game development or looking to get into game development. I know most of you all just when you talk about building a game, you have a game idea and you download a game engine, you start building it right away. But that's not what happens in the game industry. We actually have something called pre-production, right? And pre-production can, depending on the size of the game, can take months or maybe even a year or more. And in that pre-production process, there are a lot of things that have to be built and discarded and done over and over again. And that is My summary is that is where AI is actually very useful right now. Am I right?
I don't have hands-on experience with the pre-production yet. The only place where I've seen it used deep in the pre-production process with my limited exposure is in concept testing, where basically you take your core art and then you iterate, hey, we want the character to look younger, to look older. There is where I have seen it in pre-production, but I'm probably not the best person to answer that.
But by the way, one interesting thing that to think about is that for some of the AAA large companies, they explicitly forbid to use AI as of today in any sort of production because they are worried about the IP and copyright rules. So the like mostly AI use of AI is being actually in the developers only.
Right. Yeah. All small companies, small studios that don't have a budget for high quality concept artists, they would use AI just like subscription or whatever, $10-20 a month, and that's it. They've got some concept art straight off the bat. Awesome. Next, let's talk about, so what do you think short term and long term, 5-10 years, what do you think AI will be able to do?
In the first few years, I expect the biggest impact will be on mobile games because mobile games rely so much on data analytics, right? You really need to understand how the users are interacting, engaging with your game, how to monetize. And right now, you need to be a large scale publisher to really have those analytics tools at your disposal. So I think AI can help democratize the live operations of mobile games, and I think that will help smaller companies compete with larger companies. So I think in the first 5 years, the biggest impact will be on mobile games. I think from 5 to 10 years as you go out, the impact will be much more influential on AAA console and PC games. And the area that I'm most excited about is the games today that rely on procedural generation, like No Man's Sky and more recently is it Skyfall, the Microsoft game. They're still empty. They're still lonely. They're built by procedural generation, but they're not really rich or alive. And I think that's where AI can really help a lot. I think that game teams grow in size. Programmers, level designers, narrative designers, the headcount increases on a linear basis, but the number of artists increase on an exponential basis. So I think that will help artists do more and work on a larger scale that will help indie teams make better large-scale games.
One thing I don't agree with what he said is that even with AI, like small companies will not able to really use AI to do the analytics because the issue with analytics is that it's not about the tool, it's about knowing what kind of question you ask to the those tools. So I've seen many companies implementing the so-called BI system and whatnot, but always the problem is that people understanding what question to ask, right? So the that problem AI will not solve for you. That's why I don't think it's really impact them much. In terms of production-wise, I agree that where one thing that is really interesting is that how this in the next 5 years it will help a lot of the small developers. Essentially, allow one-man company to build on games. So essentially, going back to like 30, 40 years ago. Back in the days, when I first started 30 years ago, 35 years ago, not as a commercial professional developer, but as a like student developer, I was doing the coding, art, graphics, design, music, everything, right? And that was how games were developed originally. And then the AI in the next 5 years will allow to go back to that era. Making it to like commercial level is another question, but I think that it will help to see a lot of games come out. So the entry level will be kind of like democratized. And then after that, on the AAA side, it's a little bit like more tricky. But right now, like I said, no one is allowed to use AI. And can AI become advanced enough to be used as a part of the product pipeline of AAA? That is still a big question mark. So I'm not too sure about that. But what I'm mostly excited about is that what kind of interesting new gameplay can AI will be able to help to produce. On that, I think there'll be quite a lot of interesting stuff.
I do agree with him. Probably in 2 years from now, I mean, AI is not actually intelligent. So we need to understand that. One, it's basically taking a larger data set and trying to mix and match and throw the output. So for that part, we need to understand and be on the same page, right?
Like someone needs to drive the car.
Yes,
drive
yes. So
fast and
I
fast.
mean,
Someone needs to be a good driver.
Exactly. So when you hear AI, I expect the singularity to be done by 2 2 years from now. But sadly, it's still taking sample points from the users and the web. So we all know the web. The web is not a safe place to be, right? Like it can get the wrong information about a lot of stuff. So probably jobs with a lot of automation will be completely replaced. For example, if you're upscaling a texture, then AI would be pretty helpful there, right? Punching out a lot of audio files or automation stuffs will be almost common pipeline. Like I said, one-man solo devs can find a lot of good starting point with their prototypes or get that not full production, but at least to a point where they're satisfied, looks polished enough to grab attention.
Multi-language.
Yes, language.
Wow.
Yep.
It's like generate AI that is going to release the 18 languages in.
While talking about language, it can also do cross-platform or cross languages, programming languages, where you can, if an entire code base is written in C++ and they want to move an engine to something else, that's where the automation of that can happen, right? So
Yeah.
we use that. So we use ChatGPT to convert code from TypeScript to C#.
Right. Like this really menial kind of like really, yeah, like you want a poster, you want a game poster. It's the marketing team wants it in 16 different sizes. You just make the one square size and ask AI to resize it into 16 different sizes, and it's like that's done.
And also with the backend systems, most of the code is usually redundant, right? When you're writing in REST API or something like that, that's been done to death. And we hire a junior programmer or junior developer who'll be just Googling from Stack Flow and just copy pasting it. So, so that process is taken care of by AI, right? Like it will be like Copilot will just give you right there in your code editor. So that's where it's going.
Brilliant. So, I mean, the next question was any anecdotes about what AI tools you've used? So I think we've already covered that, right? Let's talk about the shortcomings of AI, right? So can it really replace humans? Like, what are the things that AI cannot ever do? Like, what will be the things that humans are actually safe in when it comes to AI? My estimate of it would be game design documentation, right? Writing a game design document. Do you know what I mean? Creating a UI. I'm a game designer, so for me, it's maybe the first draft, right? But you won't be able to finish. AI can't actually finish a game design document or a
Pretty
blueprint.
useful for brainstorming, right? Whenever you're trying to come up with a concept.
I don't think we know how far this technology can go, but I've been through, I've seen risk processing and fuzzy logic and lots of programming tools and advances. At the end of the day, this is just another software tool. So what's interesting to me is how it empowers creators. I don't know if you have, I've had the same experience where now I'm Googling and instead of getting a useful web page, I'm getting an AI generated web page that's just a trick to get me to look at the ad. The quality is, it's terrible and it's ruining my surfing experience. So there we see the limitations. But I had a friend who applied for a job at one of the world's biggest consulting firms, and he's not a native English speaker. He had to give a 6-page essay with an analysis. He put it in Chat GPT. He got the job, and they said it was the best. It was the best analysis they had ever seen. So I think it shows the opportunity there. I think the most exciting thing for me is how it empowers artists. You can draw 2D and get a 3D art. But at the end of the day, even today with humans, the biggest problem I have is most game concepts are not original. I call them Niban Senji in Japanese, right? The second cup of tea from the same tea bag. Most of us are just recycling the same old ideas, which is going to be another problem with AI again. So I think that inspiration will always require a human. And I think that the people's expectations will be even higher because the lookalike and the knockoff and the copycat games will come from AI. But the best quality games will always be coming from the human element.
Kind of like humans take it from A to B, and then AI takes it from B to C, and then hands it over to humans, then take it from C to D. So there's kind of like a step-by-step process. I'll do this, and you do a bit of this, and then we pass it on.
Back in 2003, a little bit long time ago, China, Shanghai, they started to do this gaming conference called Shanghai Joy. And then the first Shanghai Joy, when I went there, like every single game in that show, there are a lot of Chinese companies just showing off the games. They will all look like the Korean game lineage. And then the next year, back then I was with Blizzard Entertainment. I worked on World of Warcraft, and we released it. And then it was a quite a bit of successful game. And then next year we went to China Joy, and then we see every China Joy is World of Warcraft, right? They were even using our textures models. Some of the Chinese artists applied, and in the portfolio there is a artwork built by Blizzard, and they tried to apply. So yeah, so this is, I think that this is also what's going to happen with AI as well. The democratization of the game development will mean that there will be million times more copycat games which look all the same. So the being discovery problem that we are facing right now will be much bigger.
Wow, it's possible. It's really possible for it to get much. I wouldn't imagine that it would get much worse than it is right now.
So actually, it's a blessing, and disruptive technology is always a blessing and curse at the same time. And then you need to think about and try to figure out how to use it in a good way. But unfortunately, there will be a lot of bad things will happen before good things come out.
Whenever we use Midjourney, right, generate a lot of concept art, after a point you hit a saturation point because the data sampling that's what's been given. So moving forward right now, since most of them were taken from ArtStation and all those art portals, right? So now that artists are trying to protect what they create, right? So projects like Nightshade just came along to protect their creations. So AI can't really create because right now, right, this 1 year, it had this legality between, wasn't established before that. So it just took all of those accumulated data that's been there lying around for 20 years. And then it just generated all of them right now. But eventually, companies or whatever, like ArtStation, they're going to protect what the artist actually generate, right? So I feel like at a certain point of time, AI is going to run out of resources where it can fetch from. Right? So I'm a little worried about that.
I think that Facebook thinks I am a dentist, and I get ads all day long for dental equipment. And the fact of the matter is, somewhere there's an algorithm that has looked at me and analyzed me and done that. And at the end of the day, AI, as powerful as it is always going to have those limitations, and they're almost comical, right? So I think all it really is at the end of the day is it helps us achieve a higher level of creative expression by taking those time-consuming tasks away from us. But I don't think it can ever completely. Although I will say this: I asked ChatGPT to make a joke about the Unity scandal, and it actually told a humorous monologue about Unity and what a stupid strategy they had. So it can do remarkable things.
That's because, Mike, there are 20% of the garbages in the internet is about joking, right? So they pick and choose, a lot to choose from. So there is actually, if we go one step further into the theory part, so there is a current generation generative AI, and there is a concept called general artificial intelligence. So current generation of AI is not really on intelligence, right? It cannot think, it cannot reason. It is mix and match the data that it is trained on and then spit out. So it's kind of it doesn't know what he does. The AI doesn't know what it is doing himself. But general AI, the concept itself is that it actually reason and think and then know the causality. And then the thing is that we don't know. The AI scientists, they themselves don't know how to make that as of yet. Kind of feel a little bit safer. But that, if that comes around, that one will truly be changing the world.
All bets are off.
Right.
Yeah.
But on right now, what we have today, no matter how much it is trained on, because of the limitation of the probability algorithm, it is still stay as a tool.
I'm just saying that it still works on probability. It's not going to actually apply some intelligent logic to it, right?
All right, the big one. Who's going to lose their jobs, and what is the headcount change going to look like because of AI?
I already told who's going to lose their jobs. Probably a lot of voice actors to begin with, concept artists a bit, I suppose. If they can protect their concept art from being ripped off after a while, probably they can keep the jobs. A lot of automation programmers, anything that's been done to death over and over again, those people are going to lose their jobs, sadly. It goes across beyond the gaming realm also. My wife works for a pharmaceutical company, and they do a lot of medical testing, and those entire area has been replaced by AI right now. So anything that's been redundant, automated, something that runs on a conveyor belt, they're going to lose the job.
I think there's a quality and a quantity aspect. In terms of quantity, I think QA and testing, not all of it, but I think that the most of it is already quickly being automated. And certainly in terms of art or animation, I've talked about the idea that you can create art in 2D and it will make it 3D, which will, there's a real limitation today because we're creating 3D art on a 2D interface. So I think artists and animation will be hit next. However, I think what will happen, and this is based on what I saw when art went from 2D to 3D, the best artists, the best animators will keep their jobs and will make more money. And then the lower tier, the lower quality people will probably have to do something else. So it's not just that we're gaining jobs or losing jobs, but I think the most talented people in each field will make even more money because the AI tools will make them more powerful. And the ones who are doing the low-end work will need to find something new.
AI also create jobs that didn't exist. A lot of jobs, not from engineers. That's not a job, real job. What I'm talking about is that because AI is not AI, when you train your AI model, you have to have people to tag what is trained on and have to teach the computer on what this is all about. It's kind of like tagging, and it requires a lot of people, right? And then that's the low level, a lot of people require job, right? So there are some jobs are created, some jobs are lost. But generally, I agree that in terms of creative part of the industry, if you do your skill, then you have your skill, then I think that you'll be fine. But entry level, a lot of potentially could be replaced. In general, I don't think that the number of people who you will need to create great games will reduce them much.
I want to build on this because this is my idea. I need you to build it, just my idea. So right now, free-to-play is really challenged in lower-income countries because people can't afford the microtransactions. So instead of paying for microtransactions, you agree to do an AI training task on your mobile phone, and then you earn the credits to play the game. So I want to see a future world where free-to-play gaming is actually what is driving the engine of training AI.
Oh, you already do that?
Captcha.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be like Capture, but even bigger.
Right.
I mean, what if they train it wrong? Because you're giving it to the public, right? So how do you validate those data that's been coming from the public?
Statistics.
Okay.
You give it to a lot of people and then see how many people.
And the higher quality work, the higher quality work will earn more gems for the game. So you'll actually have an incentive to do a good job. If somebody does this and gets rich, please send me a T-shirt. Send me a T-shirt for your new company.
Just give me a one-liner. Give me a one-liner on this.
Just like any other tools, right? It's going to have a good and a bad. So I think it's human nature that we have evolved so much. I mean, that evolution of millionaires is still going to be there with us. So adapt to the times because it's going to change either way. So improve your skill set.
AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows AI will.
That's fantastic. I can't say anything better than that. That's the best comment I've heard all week. And before I answer, I just want to say this is my first time to India. I have never seen so much exciting talent, so much potential, and I've also had amazing hospitality and the best food of my life. So thank you.
Ditto. This is my first time in India as well. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
and
I mean the whole
thrilled.
industry. Yeah, and please understand, the whole industry, the whole world is focused on India because not only is it a great market, but it's also the great source of talent. And now we have a generation of young people who grew up playing games, love games, and are ready to make games. So it's not an income issue. It's a cultural issue. It's a generational issue. So I think, and I said this at the last panel, I'm waiting for how long until the first made in India game is a top 20 worldwide. Not just in India, but worldwide. And it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years, we never know. But I'm very excited about that day, and I believe in it since we've come here. So I cannot top that amazing comment on AI, so I'll leave it to you.
Here's my thing on AI. For those of you who are scared of it, don't be, right? Take your skills to a point where, as fast as possible, stay ahead of AI. Learn how to use it, stay ahead of AI, make it your friend. Do not look upon it as your enemy, and you're going to be fine, okay?